Just thank you to everyone for participating in this, and I always appreciate the interest in our program. Obviously, I had a lot of fun today. That doesn't mean it always went well, but it went, and it's a great first step for us moving forward. So I'm probably going to stay away from questions, that are regarding specific players or specific roles, just because it's day one, and I think this needs some time to grow before we start to identify or separate. But excited to answer whatever questions you may have that I can help with.
Yeah, if you got a question, go ahead and use the raise hand function. Teresa, why don't you get us started today?
Good morning, Clark. On the first day, you've been head coach now for, some period of time, but when you have your first practice, apart from all the preparation you've been doing, how much is the adjustment? I mean, you've been a position coach, you've been a coordinator, but to be head coach, there's not exactly a rule book or a guidebook, I'm thinking. How do what did you do to prepare for this first day, and how different did it feel not knowing that you had to go out and work with linebackers specifically, and that was your only job today?
Well, I knew this would be different. I knew it would feel different for me. I think when you're responsible for a unit, a position group, you have such a narrow focus when you take the practice field. They're just very specific things you want to accomplish. For me, this is about just taking a really broad look at the program, how the program functions, how it transitions. You're putting my eyes on every position group and individual to make sure we're doing the things we need to do in our drill work to be the developmental program that we want to be. That stuff's fun and energizing. And I think for me, it's just I keep an eye on every aspect of the program, how we practice, how we communicate with each other, all the things that we've talked about to this point. It's just monitoring those in kind of at live action drills, right? We're actually getting a chance to see how this team interacts with itself, both the coaches to players, players to players, players to coaches. And, my responsibility is to monitor that, make sure that it's both running smoothly, but also representative of the program we want to build. And so I had a lot of fun doing that today. I think it was, I'll continue to like learn more about my role and continue to grow into this role, but I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm going to need to do, and felt like was able to do that to a certain level of success today.
Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, Clark, when you're walking around and looking at practice and looking at drills and all those sort of things, how can you tell, or what can you tell about a program by the way they practice? Like, what are you specifically looking for?
Well, success for us is measured in the smallest of ways. So like, the first thing I'm looking at is how the team looks. Do we look the same? Are we honoring the uniform for the 2 hours we're on that field? And if we're not, how do we address that? How do we correct that so that, when you're looking at that practice, you see Vanderbilt football. I'm listening a lot. I think listening is a great way to monitor a practice. I want to hear, there's certain things, the crack of a huddle, the response in unison to a coach. You can hear the exertion within the drill too. But also really most importantly, like communication lines. Does it sound like there's a positive communication going on? Again, that's player to coach, coach to player, and then player to player. And then for me, I'm looking at transitions. Is there clarity in where we're going and how we're getting there? And I know that those sound like, mundane details, but for me, those are representative of a winning program. And if you're securing those areas, if you have a team that looks the same, that's being respectful of the uniform, if you have a team that's learning and training themselves how to communicate in a manner that's going to allow them to find success on Saturdays, are we building those relationships, those connectors in a competitive environment? What is our level of emotional control in our communication too, which is so important. And then how is this team transitioning? How do we anticipate what's next? How are we coordinated and communicating as a coaching staff to make sure these guys know where to go?
And no numbers, no jersey numbers today. Just what was the philosophy behind that, and when will that change?
we're going to earn everything in this program. And, until we understand that, we rent those numbers, we don't own them, until we're ready to work within them, to leave them better for the next person to wear them. That'll come. I don't want to put a timeline on it. We're monitoring just the manner in which our players occupy the spaces within this program and on our campus. And that'll also not come all at once, right? This will be according to each individual and their commitment level to moving this program forward. But the biggest thing for me is, we want to strip down all the extraneous right now and just focus on how we're building this team together. And the rest of it will come with time.
Thanks.
Robbie, go ahead.
Hey, Clark, I know you've said that the specifics in terms of strategy will come later and maybe in the fall, but how much of the spring is kind of guys adapting to, potentially new schemes on both sides of the ball? And how different do you think those are? Is it mostly a terminology thing? How is that going?
Well, just like, so, you're so excited for this day, and then you have this realization like 72 hours ago for me, that's like, I hope we get the snaps, right? Like, I never worried about that as defensive coordinator. I just hope the snap makes it from the center to the quarterback. On the whole, I thought there were small execution points that we were able to hit on for the most part, that gives you hope that, Friday will be a little bit better. Offense is rhythm and timing, defense is attitude. And so, this is the first practice that this team has had. Now, we've had training together, and I thought there was positive carryover from our training to the practice field, but it wasn't perfect. Meaning, I felt like this team on Saturday evening trained at a really, really high level. I don't think that we started practice with an energy level that reflected that training. And the reason is because you've introduced elements of change, right? Now there's nerves around performing and executing, and there are a lot of moving parts. And so that'll take time. The communication points, the alignments, the formations, the progressions on defense, building that attitude again, executing at a level where the ball's not getting behind us. But for the first day in a new era with a new program and a new coaching staff, I really felt good about the level of interaction within the program, the communication lines. And if we maintain a focus in those areas, then inevitably the football will improve as well, because, that's how you move things forward. So it'll take time, but we're going to be patient with it, and we'll demand a lot, and be urgent, but also understand that success is going to take some time.
All right, we'll go Dennis and then Simon.
Yeah. Hey, Clark. I wonder what your best moment was as a player at Vanderbilt. I know you guys didn't win much, but maybe a game or a moment. What stands out in your mind from back in those days?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, there's so much positive, and I think once you get beyond the results, you can. I mean, I reflect back on my time here, and there are so many relationships between coaches with my teammates that are strengthened to this day. I think even in my role now, and being able to reconnect with so many guys that were here at the same time, that have moved on to success in their life, to reconnect with them and to just be really proud and how far they've come and how this program, this university has helped them to get where they're going. There were as a player and as a performer, there were a lot of heartbreaking moments here, and I think I carry those with me. I mean, some of the pain I felt after so many frustrating losses, that'll never leave me. I would say, every win we had, I'm talking about 6 games over 3 years, would be high moments, but also I think the best times that I had were training with the team, and I think it was in the summer and in fall camp where, you still had this vision for success with the team, and you were working hard together. we were just never able to get over the hump. And then lastly, I would say, the team after my first year in coaching, that 05 fall, I think I forget exactly, maybe they started out 4-0. There was just a lot of excitement around the program. That was the year they ended up beating Tennessee, I think, for the 5th one of the season. And pardon me if I'm mistaken that, but I shared in that success. I mean, those were still my teammates, and you felt like watching that from afar that some of that success was built on the effort that we had through some really hard times. So a lot of positive, a lot of net gain in the moment. It was obviously very challenging, and those challenges are what drove me into coaching. Honestly, it was like, how do we get this where no one else has to experience this level of disappointment?
And also a point of order. I was looking at that roster from your final year. You only carried one time for 1 yard. That wouldn't be uncommon for a fullback. But did you start? I'm trying to remember. In that
No, Matt Tant was a starter.
Okay.
I was like a role player in my time here. And truth be told, like, I was laughing yesterday about, like, I think as a junior, I lined up in the backfield in a single, like a one back set and gun. And I told David Rye that if they ever put me back in that position in this offense, I'll be pretty upset about it. I was a decent receiving fullback. Like, I did okay in that respect. I was never a good runner, and I had my role that I filled. But Matt Tant was a starter. Was kind of the every down guy. And then my last year, some of the younger players that came in started to carve out roles for themselves, as that the coaches were building for the future, and that was hard, but that's the nature of things, and I understand that.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Clark, your team, both the coaching staff and the players, have been sort of promoting this protect the star V motto, which I don't think I'd heard prior to your hiring. Can you explain sort of the backstory, the origins to that a little bit?
Certainly. One of the first things we've talked about, since I've come back, and this is something that has been important to me as I've thought about this program ever since I was here, honestly. But no one is allowed to assign the value of being a part of this program except for those within it. No one can tell us, what it means to be a Vanderbilt football player, a member of this program. We define that. We define that by what we're willing to invest in this program and what we'll sacrifice for this program. We've talked a lot about internal vandalism versus external vandalism, and the idea that, we'll rally together to defend our spaces from external factors. That's easy to do. It's easy to understand that there are going to be people outside of our building that don't always want the program to be successful or enjoy when it's held back or held down. And we can rally against that message together. But what we can't have is internal vandalism, which means, players or coaches that behave in a manner, that think in a manner, that communicate in a manner that undercut, again, the value of this program, or undercut the star. Like, we want to strengthen the star V in everything that we do. And so that's really where that initiates, is just from this idea that, like, this is ours. This logo is ours. This is the one signifier we have. And we need to make it special, not by talking about it, but through our actions, through our dependability, through our accountability and ownership. And that mindset kind of drives our behavior in this program.
Ryan McKeegan, go ahead. And then Adam, why don't you give us the last one after that?
Hey, Clark. I was curious about Casey Stengel, how you were introduced to her and why you decided to put her on your staff.
Well, thank you for asking about Casey. She's been, like, just an incredible gift to our program, and has a spirit and energy, a desire to do things at the highest possible level. She's taken on a lot. I mean, that director of football operations role is a huge responsibility. And I've got just total confidence in her in that role. There's no one else that I'd want in that role, to be honest with you. I met Casey through Coach Corbin in 2018 when I came back. I was in town recruiting when coming off our first playoff run at Notre Dame, and just felt like I needed, that year took a lot out of me. It was my first experience as a coordinator. I learned a lot. I had to manage a lot. It was just different. And I think through that, I think you can get into this mode where, you have a finite amount of resources and energy, and you spend. And at the end, you can just kind of get yourself in a little bit of a funk. And I was looking for just some inspiration. I just wanted to get around a program that I felt like could energize me and just could, give me some ideas and reconnect with again, that spirit that drives a winning program, a championship program forward. And so I reached out to Coach, and he was kind enough to let me, come and be what I wanted to be as a fly on the wall, but I found out quickly that he doesn't let you do that. So, that's a whole nother story, which I gained a total respect and appreciation for what he does. But Casey really was, he put me in touch with Casey, and she, from the moment I got here, she helped me park. She helped me, she toured me around the facility. She was patient in answering my questions about Coach and some of the things that he does within his program, his classroom environment, some of the standards of accountability and ownership within the program, and things that Coach and I would go on to talk about. But, I can ask a lot of questions. She was very patient, very knowledgeable, and clearly was someone that just had total ownership in the program. She believed in it. And just that belief just permeated our conversation. And it was incredible. She's a pro. And in that moment, I knew that, someday if I had a chance to hire, and I didn't obviously know that it would be at Vanderbilt. I had an idea that I was hoping to be a head coach, but, that was someone that I was always going to have in the back of my mind, if I could offer an opportunity that maybe moved her forward or just gave her a chance to do something different, if it was something that fit with her. The fact that, I ended up here, and then Coach Corbin, also, blessed the move too. That's someone who did a lot for his program and is very celebrated over there. And it was important for me that, she left Coach in great standing. And obviously Coach and I are very close, and so she's just been such an important part. There was a time when I was still in South Bend where, she was the only person in the building. And so she became like a one-man wrecking crew as we started the renovation project within the hallways. And then, she got me thinking about things that, to be honest, as I was preparing for Alabama, I just had no way of anticipating. How we want the offices aligned, who do we want situated where, what do we want the workout gear to look like? Things that were so far off my radar that we needed to make decisions on. She immediately inserted herself as being such a valuable contributor to our operation, and that's only grown with time. So sorry to go so long. I just think the world of Casey. I think she's just such a great teammate and a great member of the staff, and we're very proud to have her.
Thank you.
Yeah, Clark, speaking of Casey, I saw at practice you were walking around quite a bit with her and also your chief of staff. You seem to be having conversations, pointing out things. I'm curious to know about your evaluations of practice. Are you taking mental notes? Are you telling her what you like, what you don't like? Are you rewatching the film of practice? How do you evaluate if these guys are doing what you want to be done? How do you evaluate each day?
So all of it, right? Like I'm a facilitator, and my responsibility is the order and structure of our practice. It's the coach's responsibility to fill that with energy and enthusiasm, and again, a developmental mindset. So, I'm looking for the signs and signifiers of, a healthy operation. There are things with Ben and Casey that I kind of clued them into or seek feedback on in the moment, just to make sure we're making note of, the areas we need to shore up. Again, all of this is going to be, this was my first practice as head coach. I thought it went, we made it through. There were some really good things. There were some things, the horn blew one time when it shouldn't have. Those are things we just got to work through. And we get this kind of well-oiled so that we head into the fall, better for the experience in the spring. But we'll talk about some operations-based elements of our practice that I want to make sure that we both handle in the moment, but also make record of moving forward. And then, for me, then I'm looking, so, if I've done a good job with the structure, then what I want to see filled within that structure is, a level of practice that, again, reflects, what I'm looking for from the program, which is developmental based. And so, how long are the lines in individual? How many reps are we getting? What's our tempo like in team segments? Are we getting the reps we need in team segments? And if not, what's holding us back? And so those are both things that I can address in the moment, but I'll make note of those on my note card to then circle back with our staff on later this afternoon.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Everyone, thanks so much for being here. Coach, we appreciate your time. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you to everybody. Appreciate you. Appreciate your interest.